Itzhak Perlman, at the age of 4 in 1949, contracted polio, and that left him crippled for the rest of his life. And his fingers are bigger than my fingers. I've shaken his hand. They're like bananas almost. However, those of you that do know him know that he's considered the best violinist in the world. And he's not the best violinist because people, pity him. If you've ever heard Schindler's List, you should have been touched by the music because the way he plays the violin is like a beautiful woman singing, but better, I think. So that's not the story that I really wanted to share with you guys. But one thing I want you guys to picture, imagine this child coming out on the stage to play his first violin concert and struggling to come out with his crutches. And I really think it took courage. He's fearful watching all these other people walk up on the stage to play their instruments, and he knows he's different than them. And that's exactly what courage is. Courage is the ability to act despite your fears. It's not the ability to act without fear, that's fearlessness. But the ability to act despite your fear of pain, judgment, embarrassment. So the story that I really want to share with you guys starts 10 years before that. A man by the name of Roy Benavidez was born in 1935. In 1955, he joined the United States Army. 10 years later, he found himself in the airborne and in Vietnam. So it's 1965, he's in Vietnam, and he has an encounter with a landmine. And it hurts his spine and injures him for the rest of his life. He lived the rest of his life with pain. But the real story starts in the second tour, May 2nd, 1968. He's there not fulfilling his role as an airborne, but he's there as an observer in an elite team. And he's watching this team over the radio, he's listening to them. And this story is the most indelible story of courage I've ever heard, and I would love to share it with you guys. So on May 2nd, 12 reconnaissance guys are dropped into the jungle to try and look for the enemy. And they're only supposed to spot the enemy because they're reconnaissance. They're not supposed to engage them. And next thing they know, they are overrun with the enemy, and they call in for an extraction from a helicopter, and 3 helicopters fly in, come down, and try and extract them. And all 3 attempts were unsuccessful, and they returned back, and Roy Benavidez saw these helicopters coming in, rattled with bullets. They were pulling out the injured crewmen, and not a single man was saved. So Roy Benavidez, in pain, hopped in the helicopter and encouraged them to make another attempt. Roy Benavidez had the helicopter come in, landed in a safer place away from them, and he ran 75 meters to the stranded men who he thought could be dead, injured, he didn't know. On his way running 75 meters, Roy Benavidez was shot in the leg, shot in the face, and shot in the head. He got to the men, assessed them, and realized that a few of them were capable of fighting. He directed their fire in front of the helicopter, and then he threw smoke grenades to encourage the helicopter to come over so that he could begin helping the men. Sergeant Benavidez dragged and carried half of the men himself to the helicopter, and then he ran alongside the helicopter, firing suppressing fire to pick up the other team members. When he got the last team member on, he ran for the final team member, was a team leader, and he was dead. Ran to him to get his body and to get the papers that he had that were classified on him. As soon as he got to the body, he received a critical gunshot to his abdomen, and a grenade went off behind him, riddling his back with fragments. Yesterday, I got a metal shard in my finger while doing my brake job, and I thought the world was going to end, and I pulled it out immediately. This engagement, which isn't over, lasted 6 hours. And at the time that all this happened to him, when he got the bullet wound and the grenade went off, the pilot of the helicopter that he just thrown all those people into got shot and mortally wounded, crashing the helicopter. I don't know how he did it. He managed to get back over to the helicopter, pulled everybody out that he just put in the helicopter, put them in a circle, and began defending their position again. He began locating the enemy and calling in airstrikes so that they could maybe come and bring another helicopter. And sure enough, they did a time later. And during that time, he also received another gunshot wound to his leg. So when the next next helicopter came, he began ferrying his comrades to the helicopter, one at a time. On his second trip, he got into hand-to-hand combat with another combatant. And, missing the word, he got bayonet wounds all over his body while engaging this combatant, and a hit in the head from the butt of the rifle. But somehow he managed to disarm this person and kill the enemy combatant, and then continued back, ferrying the rest of the people to the helicopter. By the time he got the last person to the helicopter, he was able to shoot two men that were rushing the helicopter because the gunner on the other side couldn't see and couldn't get them with the machine gun. And then he knew he had everybody on, but he made one last pass around the perimeter before he finally allowed the people in the helicopter to pull his body into the helicopter and leave. He made sure no one was left behind. In this 6-hour engagement that I've just summarized into such a short amount of time, Sergeant Benavidez received 37 different wounds to his body from gunshots, bayonets, and shrapnel. He obviously received the Medal of Honor, and I enjoy reading Medal of Honor winners. I encourage everyone to just Google Medal of Honor winner and read any story that comes up. It will greatly impress you. And it'll surprise you, most of them are dead. Most people win the Medal of Honor in loss of their life. So, courage. You know, I would hope I would have a tenth of the courage that Sergeant Benavidez showed on that day. There's a word that was in the reading that I was reading, indomitable, meaning unceasing, you just don't stop. And I really think if you made a movie about what I just told you and showed it to people, they'd be like, that's fake, there's no way. But there are many witnesses, and a great deal of investigation goes into a Medal of Honor winner. So how do you get courage? Well, I don't think you can get courage. Courage isn't something you can practice. Sergeant Benavidez wasn't like, oh, it's time for me to act, I'm going to show some courage. In fact, maybe even to this day, he doesn't think what he did was courageous. But what I do know about Sergeant Benavidez is he appreciated life, he cared about others, and he practiced those things. I don't think you can be courageous if you're the type of person, type of man that doesn't open a door for a woman, or the type of person that doesn't help a child if they trip and fall. If you don't do those things, you'll never be able to use the opportunity to be courageous in life. But I believe Sergeant Benavidez practiced those things, and I hope we all practice living life, loving life, and caring about others.